The world is waking up. As Jeff said, is a lot of the journalists are behind and they're forced to write stories because crypto is engaging, and so they come at it with not enough knowledge yet. But over time I'm seeing more and more people getting a little more comfortable with the space, but journalists have this habit of always wanting to find a balance to a story, so that they use the FUD even though most of it is completely wrong as their balance, as opposed to writing something more nuanced. And I think that's the issue, but over time at the margin it's changing. In a 1-hour podcast with Wolf of Wall Street's macro analyst Raoul Pal discussed narratives, a topic that he finds very important in the crypto space. In this interview, however, he went in depth about the fun narrative that journalists are pushing. It seems that at every opportunity highly regarded mainstream journalists are highlighting some sort of narrative with the intent of spreading fear, uncertainty and doubt, whether it be a sanctions or some other event. It seems that the mainstream media is falsely portraying crypto in a negative light despite the FUD. Raoul is adamant that we are still very early, and as more and more mainstream media outlets are being forced into covering crypto, there will be an education shift and the narrative will change. Once the narrative changes, the mainstream will see the myriad of problems that cryptocurrency can solve, and then we are really off to the races. Listen to what he has to say. If you go back and think where narratives come from, they don't come from nowhere. So where did the narrative about energy use come from? Because obviously it's ludicrous. I think if everybody put on their kettle at the same time, we'd use more energy around the world than crypto mining, right? So Bitcoin mining, it actually came, I believe, from the uproar within the European institutions because they wanted to slow adoption, and they've got an ESG mandate. So if they knew it would bump up against that ESG mandate, they could slow adoption, and they're not trying to slow adoption necessarily to stop it, but just to give by them time to figure stuff out, because they're feeling like they're out of control of the situation that's moving too fast. So that's what they're doing. And now sanctions is another way, is they're gonna use this for bad gains. What they're trying to do is like, please stop adopting it, but meanwhile when you go to Wall Street they're adopting it really fast. Now having spent a lot of time in that world and still speaking to a lot of people, whether it's the giant asset management firms, whether it's the giant pension schemes or the investment banks themselves. So basically those guys don't make a move without the regulators giving them the nod, saying it's fine. Of course, yeah, it's just tactics. It's tactics in a situation where technology is going so fast that they don't know how to keep up with it. Because they still haven't regulated. They're certainly ruled on bloody Ripple, and what are they going to do with all of the DAOs, all of the NFTs, the social tokens? They're so far behind that they're gonna have to draw the line somewhere, because what are they gonna do? Just keep finding everybody, give them a slap on the wrist and letting them move forward, and this goes on in perpetuity. I get it, it's a tax, so they're going to do that a bit, and that's fine. That's the cost of doing business in the end. Everybody in the space kind of understands that, but at some point they have to draw the line. And also I think there's the other thing at the same time that's come, which was the shift from using crypto and digital assets to the soft term of Web3. It's much easier for regulators say, of course we should upgrade to Web3 if we're on Web2 now, and Web3 is better, we should do it. It doesn't have the word currency in it, which was the big toxic word dumb, and so I think that creates a decent Trojan horse as well to make it easier for people, the regulators or the politicians particularly, to say yes, we need to be pioneers in Web3 as opposed to we need to be building cryptocurrencies. So I think those two things, the narrative, which is, as you said, the core case of why these digital assets really matter, plus this new kind of fancy dressing for it all. I think this is a very significant moment, what people are starting to see, and I've been definitely having conversations with people at the protocol layer talking about, okay, what can we be known for on this chain? So people are going to split down to use cases, I think. So if you're really fast and you're not super decentralized and you're very cheap, then you're very useful for the securities industry, because they have massive volume and they don't care about decentralization at the level of which private money does. So there's whole different people. I think music industry splits one way, different application tiers will use for different things. Real estate, they all have different functions, so there's still a lot of space for the broad number of the tokens. Obviously a bunch of this stuff is never going to gain network adoption. That's fine. It's just the same as a VC portfolio, where you understand that better bunch of these firms just won't get traction, and that's okay. And brand is undervalued as an intangible on the balance sheet, so what you're going to do is turn brand, and brand is community and network, into a tangible. So what the hell are all of these companies going to be worth? I saw some report there's like $43 billion in the SP 500 in intangibles, and all of this comes tangible. I mean, it's a complete revolution. And what I think the key concept that get out of it is, if you're a 12-year-old today, you are unlikely to need to work for a company or go to college, because you can actually participate in these cultural communities, of which you are both a network participant and a network kind of motivator and activator, and you get tokens, and therefore you create universal basic equity. You're taking an equity stake in the cultural communities that you're part of, be that Disney, be it the favorite music artist, bit gaming. That is an incredible difference. So you're doing community work for income or assets, and that solves a lot of the problems that technology is creating, where technology aerobatics eating the world. Well, we create something different, and I kind of like it. It also creates a very different community. If you're on Twitter, it's a toxic cesspool of people insulting you all day, and a bunch of really nice people trying to learn from each other, and it's really difficult. But when in a token world, what happens is, if you want your community to thrive and your token to therefore maintain value or increase in value, you're going to only encourage certain types of behavior, and generally good behavior is going to be rewarded by the community. So you're going to change the nature, because we all are overwhelmed by social media and what it means to us, and how complex it is to have everybody shouting at us all day. But when you go to an environment where it's driven by the token, it changes. You see that in Discord channels, people aren't mean to each other. They're just enthusiastic because they're all incentivized by the same things. So there's a huge change coming here that's going to solve a lot of problems. To watch the full interview, check out the link in the description. What do you think of Raoul's thoughts here? Leave a comment. If you found value in the content, please give it a thumbs up, as that greatly helps the channel. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.